Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth your time and bandwidth.
Today's game is Blasphemous 2. The sequel to the gorgeous, if flawed, Metroidvania masochist experience. Is Blasphemous 2 worth donning the pointy, bloodied helm a second time? Well, let's find out. Blasphemous 2 is a Metroidvania platformer with some Souls elements that draws a lot from its predecessor, but overall aims to be a more polished experience while staying true to what made the original so memorable. The penitent one is back with his weird Spanish Catholic-inspired world, and this time has to kill the League of Evil Catholics so he can get to what is apparently the immaculately conceived evil Jesus or something. I'll be honest, the plot, like the first game, was kind of lost to me. What I did know is I had some really ugly beasties to kill after a bunch of platforming, so off I went. Fundamentally, a lot of the original Blasphemous' DNA is still here. It's still a difficult Metroidvania with a basic upgrade system, the typical quick dash on a trigger, Estus flask style healing, bonfires, and dying decreases your maximum MP until your body's recovered. However, there are a few little and big changes to help improve the game overall. The first big change is the weapon system. At the start of the game, you'll pick one of 3 weapons: a heavy but slow long-range mace, twin speedy rapiers, or a balanced blade. Each of these weapons isn't just different in combat and with unique upgrade trees, they also interact with puzzle elements differently. The mace can hit bells to enable platforms or destroy walls. The rapiers can teleport you through mirrors, and the sword can ground pound to destroy certain barriers. While you'll eventually end up with all 3, you can easily swap with a button press. The early levels are built so that whatever you picked, the platforming and combat is built around it. You also get 2 magic spells this time around, meaning between 3 weapons and these spells, you have a lot more combat options. The early portions are also very non-linear, where you basically have access to several zones that contain 3 bosses, and you can tackle them in any order you wish. Once beating them and getting your full kit, the game becomes much more linear all the way to the end. In addition to these new weapons, the upgrade system has a few tweaks, like equipping pairs of stone statues to get unique effects, and the skill upgrades use unique currency rather than the default money, which was a good improvement. As a Metroidvania, it's still pretty standard, as you'll explore zones to get new equipment and skills that will allow you to unlock new areas or return for secrets and goodies. Most areas are accented with a boss that generally are easier than the first game, but still a decent challenge. In fact, overall, the game is quite a bit easier than the first game, but mostly because a lot of the BS design choices are gone. And honestly, not much more to say. This is basically the first game with several meaningful improvements, as well as a lot of polish and fixes that show this dev is learning from the mistakes the first game had. So what did I like about Blasphemous 2? Well, the combat, movement, and platforming are so improved here, with controls much less clunky, the emphasis on platforming feeling much more fair, and the 3-weapon system a fantastic addition to spice it all up. Additionally, the first several zones of this game are some of the best the genre has to offer, as they're designed to be beaten with any combination of the 3 starting weapons, and have some genuinely fantastic puzzles and platforming. And lastly, character progression also feels a lot better this time around, with upgrades coming faster, and a lot of the upgrades not requiring a specific NPC at a specific spot to unlock, and those that do are usually regulated to town, making progression feel great. When it comes to the bad, I do think this game's aesthetic has lost a bit of the original's dreariness and edge. The first game was extremely unique in how brutal and unsettling everything was, and while Blasphemous 2 definitely has its moments, the overall aesthetic I found to be a lot less memorable. Additionally, the game's enemy variety is pretty mediocre, a problem that carries over from the first game. I also found most of the bosses to not be nearly as good as in the original. There are a few standouts, but generally more simple. And lastly, I did encounter a handful of bugs, such as getting stuck in walls, glitching enemies, or recovering my body not restoring my mana. The 3 weapons are also not really well balanced against each other. Hint hint, the mace is kind of broken. This didn't dramatically affect the quality of my time with the game, but it was noticeable. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And Blasphemous 2 honestly fixed all of the problems I had with the first game and improved on everything along the way, coming out the other side as an absolutely phenomenal Metroidvania. While I do wish it was clearer on its side quests and could have used some more warps and save points, all of the new systems paired with the massively improved combat and controls make this game a joy to play. Even if you didn't like the first game, I do think Blasphemous 2 is worth taking a look at. It's yet another fantastic game released in a year that can't stop giving us fantastic games. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played Blasphemous 2 or the first game, please let me know what you think about it in the comments, especially when compared to that first game. But regardless, if you enjoy Metroidvanias, you better go out there and play some Blasphemous 2.